burdens of Shao Hao, 10,000 years before the Dark Portal. The Sundering decimated life across the face of Azeroth, but one secluded region of southern Kalimdor miraculously escaped destruction: Pandaria. For centuries, a succession of peaceful emperors had ruled over the mysterious land. Prior to the Burning Legion's invasion, a new Pandaran ruler had taken the throne, brimming with confidence and hope about his future. His name was Shao Hao, and although he did not know it at the time, his reign would mark the beginning of a new chapter in Pandarian's history. As was tradition among new emperors, Shao Hao consulted a mystic Jinju water speaker to glean knowledge of what the future held. The news he heard was dire. The Jinju foresaw a horrific invasion of ravenous demons, kingdoms engulfed in sickly green fire, and the land itself howling in pain and torment. Plagued with uncertainty, Shao Hao went to see the legendary August Celestials and his great friend the Monkey King in order to make sense of the terrible vision. With their help, the Emperor expelled the dark emotions that troubled his heart: his doubt, despair, fear, anger, hatred, and violence. As he did so, these negative traits took on physical form. They manifested into powerful spiritual entities known as the Sha. One by one, Shao Hao used his wisdom to battle these Sha and lock them away deep beneath Pandaria. There they would remain, festering beneath the earth. To stand watch over these imprisoned Sha, Shao Hao also founded the Shada Pen, an elite order of highly trained Pandaran soldiers. Brimming with newfound confidence and purpose, Shao Hao set out to spare Pandaria from the sundering that was to come. He planned to do so by separating his land from the rest of Kalimdor. The Emperor would perform his grand task in the heart of Pandaria, the sacred Vale of Eternal Blossoms. In the Vale, Shao Hao focused his powers to sever his empire from Kalimdor. Yet, try as he might, he could not succeed. His doubts and fears returned. Across Pandaria, the imprisoned Sha stirred to life and feasted on the Emperor's uncertainties. As the Legion's fell magic set the heavens alight, Shao Hao desperately called upon the aid of the wisest August Celestial, the Jade Serpent. She appeared in the roiling skies and told Shao Hao that Pandaria was more than just his empire. Everything in Pandaria was connected. Everything in Pandaria was one. It was then that Shao Hao understood the Jade Serpent's advice. To save his land, he would need to become one with it. Despite his dream of living a long and prosperous life, he knew that it was not to be. With his mind clear and his heart set on the task ahead, Shao Hao merged his spirit with the land itself and forced it to break away from the rest of Kalimdor. His very essence shrouded Pandaria in a thick mist that would hide it from the outside world and protect it from the terrible sundering. For the next 10,000 years, Pandaria would remain hidden, and it faded into legend. The Sha of Pride. There was one negative emotion that Shao Hao never purged from himself: pride. It would silently lurk in Pandaria in the millennia after the Emperor spared his people and his land from the sundering. Chapter 4. A New World. Mount Hyjal and the World Tree, 10,000 years before the Dark Portal. The sundering had left the world broken. The Well of Eternity was gone, and so, too, was the once coveted source of the Night Elves' arcane power. Desperate for refuge, the surviving Night Elves fled northwest to Mount Hyjal, one of the few places on Azeroth untouched by destruction. En route Hyjal, Malfurion Stormrage and the other Night Elves concluded that the arcane magic was not safe. They agreed to prohibit its use to avoid another catastrophe like the War of the Ancients. Yet, as they reached the summit of Hyjal, they were horrified to discover a second, smaller Well of Eternity. Equally shocking was the figure whom the Night Elves found standing in the Fount's shores, Illidan. Before the Sundering, Illidan had filled several vials with enchanted liquid from the original Well of Eternity. He had poured some of them into the lake atop Hyjal, transforming the idyllic waters into another fount of arcane power. Violence erupted when a group of Night Elves confronted Illidan, and his brother Malfurion was forced to restrain him. Yet, Illidan insisted that a new Well of Eternity was necessary. With it, the Night Elves would have the arcane power they needed to fight off the Burning Legion when, if not if, but when, it returned. Though some of the surviving Highborn agreed with Illidan, the majority of the Night Elves did not. They chastised him for his brash and selfish act, claiming that the Well of Eternity could be used as a gateway for the Legion. Even then, Illidan remained unapologetic. Seeing no other recourse, the Night Elves decided to deal with Illidan once and for all. Ultimately, the decision was made to imprison the sorcerer. Malfurion himself would see to enacting this punishment. With the help of Cenarius, he chained Illidan deep within a barreled prison. Malfurion then charged priestess Maeve Shadowsong to stand guard over the wayward sorcerer. She would later take on the mantle of Warden, founding an order of elite, secretive Night Elf jailers. Upon learning of the second well, 3 of the great dragon aspects converged on Hyjal. Like the Night Elves, they knew that so long as the Fount of Power existed, the Legion would have a means to invade Azeroth once again. Thus, the aspect of life, RX'd, used an enchanted seed to sprout a mighty tree over the Well of Eternity. The tree's boughs soon towered over the lake, scraping the belly of the heavens. Its roots grew deep into the earth, spreading life, giving energies across the war-torn world. Thereafter, the great tree would act as a seal over the new Well of Eternity, preventing the Legion or anyone else from abusing its power. Malfurion and the other Night Elves looked upon the colossal world tree and named it Nordrassil, meaning Crown of the Heavens. They vowed to keep it safe and protect the Well of Eternity at any cost. To honor this decision, the Dragon Aspects agreed to bless the Night Elves so that they could perform their guardianship successfully. RX'd infused Nordrassil with renewed strength and vitality, which would also extend to the Night Elves. The Aspects of Dreams, Ysera, then blessed the tree, binding it and all the Night Elf druids to the Emerald Dream. Prior to this, Malfurion and his followers had wandered Ysera's realm, but doing so required difficult meditation. The new enchantment placed on Nordrassil would allow these druids to journey into the dream whenever they so wished. Lastly, Nosdormu, the aspect of time, wove his energies through the boughs and roots of Nordrassil, assuring that, as long as the colossal tree stood, the Night Elves would possess immortality. With that, the aspects ventured back to their hidden lairs. Due to their enchantments, the second Well of Eternity would no longer act as a beacon to demons, nor could the Legion easily use it as a gateway into Azeroth. It would become a symbol of the Night Elves' connection to the natural world, a sacred monument that empowered their race with immunity to sickness, disease, and aging. The Sentinels, 9,400 years before the Dark Portal. As the centuries passed, the burgeoning Night Elf society expanded into the dense forests of Ashenvale, south of Mount Hyjal. Tyrande Whisperwind, High Priestess of the Sisterhood of Elune, led the Night Elves in rebuilding their society. Her order was uniquely positioned to fill the power vacuum among the Night Elves, for it had emerged from the War of the Ancients relatively unscathed. Tyrande deftly positioned the Sisterhood as the leaders of both the Night Elf government and the military. She also forged a new fighting force, the Sentinels. Composed of devout and highly trained warrior women, this order dedicated itself to protecting the emergent Night Elf society. The Sentinels set out to patrol their misty forest zone, befriending the native creatures of the land and standing guard against any threat. Meanwhile, Malfurion continued fostering a culture of druidism among his people. Having abandoned arcane magic, many former sorceresses embraced Malfurion's teachings and devoted themselves to living in harmony with nature. These early druids lacked the stringent militaristic codes and hierarchy of the Sentinels. Malfurion's followers were free to explore the depths of the Emerald Dream at will. They also experimented with the art of shapeshifting, taking on forms of mighty bears, lithe nightsabers, swift-winged crows, and many other animals that roam the woodland deeps. The druids regularly entered long periods of hibernation as they journeyed through the dream. These aloofness frustrated Tyrana and her sentinels. Though they often sought the druids' help to safeguard Night Elf's lands, few of Malfurion's followers were ever awake to answer the call. As these changes in Night Elf society took shape, an old foe was gathering strength in Kalimdor. Following the War of the Ancients, the remaining satyrs stayed hidden in the dark corners of the world, waiting to strike back at the Night Elves. Eventually, one of the horned aberrations, Salan the Feared, gave his brethren this chance. He rallied the satyrs and girded them for war. Salan's rise also drew the attention of the Burning Legion's remnants trapped on Azeroth after the Sundering. Doomguard and other wicked beings emerged from the Dark Warrens, drawn to the satyrs' call. As one, this demonic army launched its first brutal assault on the Night Elf stronghold of Nighrun, plunging the fragile society into war once again.